And talk and talk and talk. I could, Heather, and talk and talk and talk. We will. Folks, welcome back to another Hollywood Horoscopes. Heather Cunningham, how the hell are you? My dream angel, astrological queen, my shining beacon of hope and light.
My dream co-host and soul sister. Hello.
That's
Uh
me, Miranda Lensky. We apologize now. Just kidding.
we apologize. What?
I'm like, we're gonna go ahead. I'm like, let's go ahead and apologize in advance.
Oh my God.
Just kidding. I was making a joke about me, and then also just
No apologies.
never
It's Gemini
apologies.
season.
Yeah,
It's
it's the season of the cunt.
it's cunt season. Yep.
It's
I'm
Heather.
good. I think, yeah, as I was saying before we started, I think the moon being in Scorpio, I'm trying to track that more because I'm like so about like the outer planets and the bigger significations of each month, but also like yeah, I don't know. It's so it feels a little bit like, when I was first getting into astrology, I have to have my self-aware moment. When I was first getting into astrology, I was very like, I'll never be one of those people who's like obsessively looking at my horoscope and obsessively looking at where the planets are and like, blah, blah, blah. And now I am that person. But it's like also just helps me to learn it. I'm just so fucking desperate for meaning in my life and like depth, I think, that I just like, I don't have a partner. I don't have a pet. So I wake up and I'm like, where's the moon
You're
today? Anyway, but so the other day, the moon was in the third house and I had to do tabling for the theater I work at this like local market. And that felt the third house is like Gemini's house. And I was like, wow, this is so third house today. And we're like approaching Gemini. And now I'm like, I need depth. And I like am into watching like divorce, like listening to this divorce specialist like speak for an hour. And it's like, oh my God, it's in Scorpio in my fourth house. And like, I don't know, maybe I'm creating this all in my mind, but it makes life more fun for me.
you're not creating it all in your mind because then that would mean I'm also doing that. And that those two things just can't be true. Especially
Oh,
me, a Pisces. What do you mean? Imagine, fantasize, be delusional.
it's
I'm
more
sorry,
fun. I don't even
manifest.
care. Like,
Julia
whatever.
Fox did it. Most delusional bitch I've ever met. Look at her.
I
Okay.
know. I listened to an interview with her where she was like, everything that I ask for and that I pray for, like, has come true. And so, like, now I know to, like, be careful for what I wish for. And I'm like, honestly, same. Like,
Yeah.
maybe not in, like, a massive, way. Like, I used to want to be on Broadway, but, like, that wasn't right anyway. And you could argue that that, like, has occurred in small ways. Anyway.
Right. Well, and I think too, like, first of all, I told everyone I was going to be on a just a what am I trying to say? A rabbit hole hyperfixation on Julia Fox for a minute because I just finished her book, but she is so much more spiritual, I think, than she comes across at first. But yes, praying is something like in the very first pages of her book, she talks about it. She prayed when she got off the train or the plane when they landed in New York City from Italy,
Mm.
and her family. And just she's still till this day talks about like I pray, like, and I know that that's not like the it girl thing to say,
I think that's
but
so cool when people are just willing to say that though. God damn it.
yeah. And to me, what else is communicating to the universe than praying? Or praying out loud on your knees. The time that I just remember being in a really, really low spot in life. I'm honestly being dramatic about it now, but I was just like, and it really felt like a low spot for me, was unhappy with a lot of things in life. It was like college. I'm looking back now and being like, bitch, world ahead of you. Get the fuck up, stand up, get up. But it was like college. I was just going through it, like my first real heartbreak and
Yeah.
adult heartbreak, or like, the feeling of being on my own and having to deal with a lot of responsibility. Honestly, not realizing that I am a Pisces sun with Gemini moon. Not a lot of things just weren't in alignment, weren't clear to me. And I remember I can't remember up until that point when the last time I had stepped into a church, and I haven't really been to an active church sense. And what I mean by that is like a service with like a guy up at the front doing his thing. I
Yeah.
have been inside some beautiful churches, and I find churches very peaceful and like
Yeah. There is a
I
holy feeling.
when they're empty.
Yeah, right. When no one's in there, no one's talking. It's just, yeah.
God. Okay, way to ruin the vibe. Get up in the
Right?
center of this peaceful, beautiful place and
Yeah.
talk your shit.
Talk
Um,
about
no,
Bible.
like I
Yeah.
want to be clear. Like I do find so much, like I think there's so much peacefulness inside of a church, yada yada. But I remember just praying like out loud, like literally begging the universe to just like clear these cloudy skies for a minute, please. Like I've just been getting
Yeah.
pummeled. I'm feeling hit. And I'll never forget that I reminded like once I kind of got out of that and was in a sunnier place and there was like rain, I was able to look at all the rainbows now through the clouds. Um, I also got back down on my knees and expressed gratitude. And it
Yes.
was all in terms of prayer. And I don't think I ever said like, dear God, exactly. Cause at that point in my life, if you had asked me, I probably for shock value would have told you I was atheist. And because at that time, I think it's what I really believed myself to be,
Yeah.
which now I would say agnostic as fuck.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Agnostic with my fingers crossed, bitch. Like, but I do, and I would say spiritual. I wouldn't say I'm like anti-religious. I would just say I'm spiritual.
Yeah.
Anyways, I look back on that moment and I'm like, that was prayer. And a lot of times when we're manifesting, when we're writing, when we're journaling,
It's the
whenever
same fucking thing as
it's
setting an
all a form of
intention
prayer.
or
Yeah.
yeah.
So her saying that, and like she was raised religious and
Yeah.
did go to Catholic school at points, but it is like what I think what she's saying, like when she's like I pray, is like I'm spiritual, and I know that that's not technically like I guess it girl language, but to me she's like that is an example of someone connected with the universe
Mhm.
clearly, who is
Mhm.
very clear on what they want, very excuse me, clear on how to ask for it,
Yeah.
and exactly has had that success work for them so much that now it's gotten to a place where it's like be like literally be careful what you wish for, just
Yeah.
be, because like you're probably going to get it, whatever you
Yeah.
manifest you're going to get. So like be even more that's like very powerful to me. And she jokes about what just like kind of being delusional or always just kind of having a weird trust that things were just going to work out, and I feel like you kind of have to. That's a
Yeah.
big
And
catch.
yeah, I don't even think it's delusion. I think like it is,
Exactly.
I don't know.
It's trust
I
and what
have
we maybe can't see right now.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was so like in freak out mode when I was moving and life was just like inflicting change upon me that I had no control over. But it's like easy to say when you're like in a peaceful
Right.
zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I mean,
It's
astrology
treading
teaches
water.
us there's always the cycles just whenever there's a down part, there's always an up part around the corner. Or
And I just think too, like, Heather, this was something we were talking about before the podcast. And I am interested in continuing the conversation for the podcast. But also, a lot of people listening to this podcast right now, a lot of people listening, I just think are around our age, also dealing with their Saturn returns, their coming of ageness as well. Like and we were talking about this a little bit too, where we've also now, like, you can almost, if you're hitting 30, if you're in your 30s or you're hitting 30, you now, like, the chapter on 20, so to speak, is closed. There is a way of like, you can look back now at your entire 20s from 20 to 29. Like, it's all there now. It's all there to be filed away. You can look at it, you can see it. Your perspective, and this is why I think so much happens when you turn 30 as well, in general, of just like this is why you have no more shits to give at 30,
yeah.
because I think we realize how valuable our time is, how precious it is,
Yeah.
and how fast 10 years can go, a whole decade can go, and that chapter can be closed. Because as I was telling you too, like I can see 20, like I remember 20. I'm not the same as who I was at 20, but I'm not like, it's not like that girl's so that drastically like that she doesn't feel that far away.
Yeah.
That's when you and I were like meeting, and
Yeah.
very profound, like it's just a very interesting idea to think. I think that's such a beautiful gift we have too, to understand the preciousness of time, to understand how important it is that how you spend your energy. And I think this is a big part of what happens in your 30s too, is that you're not going to let another decade just slip by of being unhappy and not asking what you want from the universe and
Yeah.
not getting clear on your intentions and your desires, because you do realize how much power, the proof is in the pudding of how much
Mhm.
power you have and say you have in your own destiny.
Mhm.
It's kind of a beautiful thing if you think
Yeah.
about it. And this is why it's always like youth is wasted on the young because you don't have that perspective. But I feel like our generation is also really good at, in this age of Aquarius, right? Moment that we're having, it's like we're extending that. Youth is getting extended in a
Oh my
lot of
God. I
ways.
watch the Real Housewives who are like sometimes 60 years old, and I'm like, you are way more youthful than some of my friends my age. Like, not only do you look hot as fuck, but like your energy. You know what I
You're
mean?
just like a
Like,
fun time.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't think you have to age ever. I mean, I have Leo rising. I never fucking want to, I
Right.
be an actual adult. Like,
Yeah.
fuck
My
that.
Pisces is like age. That's made up like the time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Age is a construct.
That's a construct, like it all. We're one big orb.
We're all just a spirit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so amazing. And like, yeah, I just this like I've never almost felt, it's like I think what you miss a lot, especially in this Gemini season, right? Yes, Gemini gets the reputation for talking, or not. I'm as someone who's been told her whole life and would agree with everyone who's ever told her talks too much. It's just it's like that's just my level. Like I think just like there's spice levels. Okay, well my natural off the vine level of chattiness is spicy. It's pretty hot. It's up there. You got to sign something before you taste me,
I love it
baby.
about you.
Well, Heather, you would because I don't let you have another choice. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's Gemini. It's a time for socializing, connecting, finding out what fucking pumps your nads, so to speak, what gets you up in the morning, because the more interested we are in something, the more passion and drive there is behind that, right? So I think this time is really interesting. The sun is entering Gemini. It's naturally, I think, going to pose a lot of questions. There's going to be some natural
Yeah.
thinking there, maybe a little bit of
Yeah.
overthinking, of course, too. But what a time it feels like it is to talk for the sake of connecting,
Mm-hmm.
like with this big under layer of age of Aquarius now, and seeing how every sign sort of plays a role in the greater scheme of it.
Yeah.
Like what a time to like and to fight for staying connected. And it's not just that we're doing it for fun. Like socializing, of course, is fun. The way our generation, it's so important for us to connect, to stay educated.
Mm-hmm.
The way we're using the social media as not so much a place to just be like, here's what's going on with me today, but as a real place to spread information, to
Yeah.
spread awareness, to connect on a deeper,
Mm-hmm.
bigger level
Mm-hmm.
has been really, we've been talking about this forever, how much we love it, but just seems very on brand for this Gemini moment right now. This loaded age of Aquarius, the effect that Gemini has on it. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I just talked in a
No, it
circle.
does. It does. No, I fucking vibe with Gemini. I have like a strong mercurial energy in my chart. But the what was I gonna say about all of that? Yeah, I agree. I think it's cool that we come off of Taurus where we're very like stabilizing in a secure sort of material way. And then I don't know, I feel like I've been experiencing this year in such a vivid energetic way because like the Aries eclipse happened and I was like uprooted and like I don't know, I'm feeling very connected to the energies this year.
Mhm.
Um
I would agree.
because it has been like dramatic. But yeah, the gem it does feel like once you stabilize, then it's like, okay, but like what stimulates me? Or like I can't just sit and eat bonbons
Right.
forever. Like
Right.
what's
Well,
yeah.
you could.
But okay, I
Um,
could. But I agree. I want
I'm
to
like,
eat
Heather,
bonbons
you're a
and watch
bonbons girl.
and watch podcasts or
Right.
watch podcasts on YouTube. Like I think that
Right.
is
Right.
also
Right.
so cool. Like on top of
Right.
TikTok and Reddit and all these things that we now have in our collective that you're right, like
Mhm.
in order to share information in such a Gemini way, like podcasts. God, it is so cool that like I feel like Netflix is out and like long form interviews with humans that have something to teach us are in. I don't know. Maybe that's just
Yeah.
me. I'm very in the self-help world and I'm very like into this shit, but it does feel like that kind of form of entertainment is only becoming more popular for like there's a shift. I don't know.
Yeah. No, and I know, and like we've joked about this because obviously our podcast, like we have a whole segment that's devoted to looking up a public chart, usually a celebrity, just because those are the charts that are public and what
Yeah.
people are going to naturally find interest in. But I do think there's like less and less engagement for influencer culture.
Oh yeah.
We're less and less interested in being sold things to us, which unfortunately in this capitalist society that's been quote unquote successful for a long time, or just sort of the way we just know things. For example, like I'm really seeing a lot of conversation being like, exactly, the moment something is an ad, it's kind of like just like what you said, like almost Netflix is like out and then like yes, YouTube is back in or the podcasts are in. That's kind of how I feel with all like Facebook, Instagram, a lot of that shit's out. It's like mainly like kind of TikTok or Twitter. Again, all these very user like, not in a way
Yeah.
to sell you something
Or
or
the
to brag
superficial
about something.
image
Yeah,
or
or just
yeah.
to highlight yourself in a way. It is to connect. There is
Yeah.
like an aspect of, it's
Share
like Reddit,
ideas.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Share ideas, connect. Like, am I alone in this? No, turns out super not alone in this, right? Like it is just interesting. And I wasn't even thinking about this when this happened the other day, but I was just following my urges yesterday, Heather, and I feel like I should mention this now really quick. And just like cold FaceTimed a good friend of mine, shouts out Oscar Lemus in Los Angeles. Just to like talk for funsies. I feel like there's like a
That's so
spontaneity
Gemini.
to Gemini of like,
Yes.
oh yeah, that would be interesting and fun to me. I'm gonna follow through on that. And
Yeah,
like
yeah. That's so Christian. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like I just shouts out Christian Miola.
Gemini
Um
rising. Yeah.
called Oscar to learn about all the goss. No, I'm just kidding. But like,
Yes.
yeah, like I just do like I feel like this is a connecting time. This is a time you want to reach out or follow those urges of, I haven't talked to in a minute, stuff like that. Like kind of
Yeah.
it was just so refreshing and like fun and not something I would have done on the norm. But it was like a sunny, beautiful day. I happened to be walking in the park and then I sat down on a bench and was like, oh my God, I meant to FaceTime him a little bit ago. So like I'll do it now. And I don't know. There is just something in the air about like it almost feels like there's nothing our generation really needs to catch up on. When we are communicating right now, too, about a lot of things, it's
Yeah.
almost like we're already all on the same page because of how Gemini we already are, because of
Yeah.
how it does feel like there's just a lot of natural Gemini to our generation in a big way, the natural interest in a lot of things. I think it's extra loaded right now, obviously, but there's just feels like this like understanding of like a lot of us are on the same page, or we all saw that thing online, right? Or we all understand what we need to do going forward to make significant differences. Like there's an up
Yeah.
leveling.
And
There's
it's
just an up leveling.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking I agree. And it's cool that Pluto is about to enter Aquarius for good at the end of this year in November. And at the same time, Jupiter, this Gemini season is also really fucking cool because the sun just moved into Gemini. And then in the same Gemini season, in just like a week, Jupiter moved into Gemini for the next 2 years.
Mm,
And Jupiter will be in Gemini as we enter this official uh 20-year period of Aquarius time. So and Aquarius being an air sign and Gemini being an air sign, they form a trine. So there's
mm,
like and that's what the astrologers are saying this week, as like all of these planets move into Gemini, they're also going to hit that trine. They're going to be like activated positively by this Pluto in Aquarius. So there's something energetic there
interesting.
about just like, yeah, this collective movement into Aquarius and what that signifies, and also this Gemini season, and also this 2-year period of like fun Gemini amplification.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I also think it's cool that this is all happening. Sorry, my brain is like, wow.
No, go ahead.
That this is all happening while Saturn's transiting through Pisces. And I think so much of what we were talking about before we started,
Uh,
like, yeah, we have Pisces placements and we are in our Saturn return in Pisces, but like this also just as a collective for everyone is a period where we're like forced to get deeper or like, yeah,
mm,
like actually like get serious about the Pisces parts of life because Saturn is a serious planet. Um, I don't
wow.
know.
That's so interesting, Heather, too, because I know we were talking before we started and how we were both sort of feeling a similar way. Um, and it was so nice to hear that I wasn't alone in how I was feeling and that you were kind of feeling similarly when it comes to a lot of like the art that we're creating or the art that we're consuming or just sort of like entertainment in general, even if it's not quite art, just like the whole vibe just does feel a little bit there is a request, I should say, or a desire for depth.
Yes.
Maybe I'm totally off on that, but it was really nice chatting with you about it and feeling that you felt kind of similarly. And there have been like again, selfishly, I am a Pisces sun, so I do think a lot of my natural thinking is like, and decision making comes down to like, well, what are you gonna wish you had done on your deathbed?
Right.
But I think there's been a lot sort of that being applied to the bigger of like, what do I want to make out of this life? What do I at the end of this or going forward? And I think again, even that the Saturn moving through Pisces under this again umbrella of Age of Aquarius, I think there's been a huge shift of like, what do I want from me and my fellow humans, my people?
Yeah.
We're not in a world anymore where I think no one really wants to be super selfish or wants it to just be about the one. Um, I kind of got into an argument with
Yeah.
my dad about this recently too. And then it was so funny because he called me back and he goes, you know what? I do think that's a big thing about a difference in our generation. And he was being really like complimentary about it of like,
Oh,
actually, you
cool.
know what? I sat there for a minute and you're right. Like your generation, you know, the global warming they've been talking to us about forever. He's like, they told my generation that, but now it's at a place where we can't ignore it. Your generation doesn't have the luxury of like that's someone else's problem. This is just like one example. And he was it does just it's gonna fall on you and on your shoulders. And this like our generation, I think, just has a lot of again. And then it's like, I'm not trying to hit him over the head with it, but I'm like, you just described Age of Aquarius a little bit, or like the underlying
Well,
themes.
and think about like before Pluto was in Sagittarius and we had this whole I grew up when it felt like 2007 my family was like looking at like nice ass homes to move into. Like and like the huge like I it just felt like so financially abundant. We had MTV Cribs, like it was all about like flaunting wealth, like celebrity
Mm-hmm.
culture was at like and Pluto in Capricorn was the age of the influencer and the Kardashians and
Mm-hmm.
like plastic surgery. And it's been a fucking while since Pluto's been in a deep sign. And like we were born when Pluto was in Scorpio and there was the AIDS crisis and like we were born or no, sorry, I the AIDS was in the 80s, but okay. Oh God, I don't But
Still, we weren't in the Age of
still,
Aquarius.
sorry. But Pluto spends 20 years in a. So, no, I actually think, yeah,
Yeah,
like Pluto entering Scorpio, but then we were
it
born in
wasn't like it just
94.
entered. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, no, but still,
You're
like, so we
right.
were born at a time of like depth, even though we weren't like really, alive and competent at that time. But like, it's been a minute since
It's always
we've
been
been
like our
in a
theme. Yeah.
yeah, but so it's a part of our makeup being born with Pluto and Scorpio. But like, yeah, I feel like Pluto entering Aquarius and then going into Pisces after that is like I think we've hit the threshold for the more like superficial. I don't know.
I
We're
get what
just
you're
at a
saying.
capacity.
That's what I'm saying. Like it just does feel like again, you can't make this shit up. And I find it really interesting that, yes, also, like, if you want to be cynical about it and you want to be only human about it and not spiritual about it in the least, even though that would be a disservice to who we are, it's like, yeah, you could look at it as that it happens to just be a coincidence that we're entering the age of Aquarius. At the same time, our generation is really like unifying and really becoming like it is about the bigger
Yeah.
and there's just much bigger happening. And so I think that's why this sort of idea of like this was also something I kind of argued with my dad about because I get a little passionate, I get a little, I get a little ranty. I'm not saying that I'm a pleasant person to disagree with, but there's so much I'm like, I'm trying to keep you young, dad. Listen. Um and like just the way we were kind of shit, I'm gonna lose my train of thought. But
Oh,
just talking in general about our generation. God damn it. I
oh
lost my train of thought
fuck,
where I was
that's so
going. That's
Gemini.
okay. I know. I'm like, it'll come back. It'll come back just as we're about to need.
Yeah.
And I know we
Oh,
need to move on anyway. So hopefully it'll come back. But it was just nice talking to an older person in the world who's had a completely different upbringing and just maybe didn't have to think about a lot of the ways that like we have to think now.
yeah.
And it's not all to say it's like doom and gloom. I
No,
think this
no.
is a beautiful, if anything, like there's a freedom to it at the same time. And the way that a lot of just, oh, this is what I was going to say. My dad was like, just relax though. It's always sucked. Everything's always been wrong. And I'm like, but that's not the attitude anymore. And like, and my dad, like, we just had a whole moment where we disagreed. And then like a couple hours later, he called me back and we talked a little the next day too. And he was like,
Oh,
I was thinking about that. You're right. Like, you're young. You've got tons of life in front of you. Like your generation should fucking charge it. You should full throttle. You should
yeah.
like don't, let that hopelessness be fire. And it was a
Yeah.
really like it was just a fun moment. With that, Heather, shall we pause here really quick?
Yes, yes.
Oh, Heather, as always, a fun little chart we have. First Gemini of the season, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Happy Gemini season to all. Um, this one, Geminis are so funny because I feel like they never, for whatever reason, there's a couple signs to me that I'm like, oh, a lot of times people's personalities don't maybe match that sign all the time, or it's like a little bit of a more of a shock. I want to say every Gemini I've ever understood to be a Gemini, I've always been like, yeah, that checks.
That's yeah.
Like there's no
It's
surprise when you know
I've
the person, or
I've
like, yeah.
always said it's the easiest sign for me to like
Mm,
pick out of a crowd. Like
interesting.
I always feel like when I'm with a Gemini energy, like I'm like, oh, you have Gemini, and I'm like always right. Like I just like
Yeah.
can feel it or notice it like immediately.
Yeah.
And celebrities too. Oh my god. I
Little
did you ever
chameleons.
watch Millionaire Matchmaker with Patty Stanger on Bravo, where it's this crazy woman. She's a Gemini, and I almost was gonna text you and be like, "We should do Patty Stanger," but then I was like, "No, that's too chaotic." And actually, she's been in like she said a lot of like problematic things, or not super. Like she said like she went on Watch What Happens Live and was telling Andy Cohen, like, well, yeah, you gays are like never monogamous, and just like makes these sweeping statements about like, well, the gays don't want to get married, they're all whores, or like something like that. It's like, oh
The
my God.
gays.
Yeah, like, but
Me talking to my gays.
right. I'm like, I feel
The
yeah,
gays.
the gay, yeah, and my gays.
Is it like
But
Geminis push the envelope because
oh
they
yeah,
just get away
they
with talking? I can
totally. I
relate.
mean, they're yeah, they have such a way. Gemini and Sagittarius, and they both share an axis, have like a way of like charmingly saying I mean, Andy Cohen's a Gemini. It's like
Yeah.
they'll
Of
push the
like,
envelope and
yeah,
like be gossipy and like almost like
ask the real questions.
yeah, yeah, but to me that is like the funnest. I
Yeah.
love it.
Well, it's just
Um
like, so sorry. Off the top, I know we haven't even announced this sign yet, but real quick, Heather, not to pimp you out. Do you happen to know Simon Cowell's sign from American Idol?
that is a
Because
good. Is he a
he would
Gemini?
strike me, or it wouldn't surprise me if he was a Sag too. But like in that same way that it's like, Simon Cowell, he's like, I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. I'll never forget
Right.
growing up and my dad be like, I literally was thinking that. I was thinking her mouth was so big you could drive a car in there. And I'm like, what's that have to do with her singing though? That's mean. And like, but like, yeah. So maybe and like also that was a TV show. So it wouldn't shock me if that was just for like ratings. But yeah,
Yeah.
like there tends to be a lot of times people
Right.
appreciate that honesty. I think they're like me as a
Sag
water, I'm
Moon,
like,
Simon.
he's Simon Cowell's a Sag Moon.
He's a Libra, which is interesting.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. Cause that was just like, he's one of the like idols of people I feel like who just like says it how it is,
Well,
you
it's
know?
Scott Disick.
Oh, yep.
Gordon
Hmm.
Ramsay isn't a
Yep.
Gemini, he's a Scorpio, but he has strong Gemini. I think he's Gemini Moon, Gemini
Gemini
Rising. Like,
placements.
yeah, it's but
I
sorry,
love
I
it.
feel like I cut you off. But yeah, that's so
No, no, no.
funny.
I just more was like, in that same vein, I do think that there is an appreciation to it. Not like I'm not trying to promote being mean to someone,
No,
but sort
no,
of
but
not cutting like just like what the fuck are we talking about? Let's quit cutting around the
also
bullshit. Let's yeah.
totally. Also, Gemini, if you think about the order of the signs and how Aries is like the infant, it's like raw, just like
Mhm.
I am. And Taurus is like the toddler who's like experiencing objects for the first time. And it's like mine.
Mhm.
I like this. I like that. And then Gemini, they say, is like when you enter school and it's like you're
Ah.
learning how to communicate with other kids and you're a part of a community suddenly. But also, I work with kids in this age range. Like I work with
Mhm.
first graders to third graders, and they're so fucking honest. Like, I
Yeah.
the other day like walked into work and this kid was like, I don't like when you wear those sunglasses. Why is your face so white today? I was like, what? Like my new foundation? Like I just like, but that
Literally.
is so Gemini. Like
Right. Because it hasn't like, and like we learn that it's like this is why you maybe don't always say what you just are thinking because you don't
yeah.
understand at that age that it could really hurt someone's feelings, or you're pointing out like, oh, that you just reminded me of this little girl I used to nanny when I was breaking out one day and she was
They
like,
love to point that shit
what's with
out.
your fucking face?
What's with your
Essentially.
fucking
And I
face?
was like, you little
I've
rat.
gotten that too. Like, what are
Where I've
these
been like,
dots on your face? I'm like,
how do
shut
I
the fuck up.
explain the puberty you haven't entered yet? And even though
Mhm.
I'm far out of it,
I know.
yeah, anyways, but you're absolutely right. And then, but then people talk about this too, right? Like we get that beaten out of us because also the beautiful thing about being a kid and like that, right? That when you don't really know the social cues just yet. So you are just being honest. You're just saying what you think. There's so much of that gets lost based on societal standards and
Yeah.
norms.
And
And
that's
there's again, these are all the first signs. So they just sort
Gemini's
of
never boring because it
all
is.
their
It's a
element.
little bit
Mhm.
more playful, raw. Yeah.
And it is a playful sign and it's a chameleon sign. And it's
Mhm.
like, it's got to ask those questions. It wants to know. It's genuinely curious and
Mhm,
interested,
mhm. Just
and
like
wants to
kids.
adapt to meet your needs a little more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm like, I realize we have
I know, I
minutes.
know. Yeah. So
Do you want to do the honors, Heather? Sorry.
sure. So today we'll be covering
Boom, 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 boom. Those are the
gay
drums.
icon
Gay
Troy
icon,
Troy Sivan.
gay rights,
Gay rights,
gay
poppers.
rights.
Gosh.
Little shout out for Charlie XCX there on the side.
Yes, they're going on tour together.
I
Um,
love them together
me too. Me
on tour.
too.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I know they're not romantically linked, but
No.
anyways, go on, go on.
But yeah, I feel like Troy is such a Gemini. Little baby Troy is a Gemini sun, Virgo moon, and Cancer rising.
Hmm.
So a little bit
He is a
sexual, a
little
little bit
sweetie.
romantic, but a little bit like playful and youthful and mischievous also, I feel like.
Hmm.
Yeah, also he's like hot. Like I was like looking up like he has like his eyes and like he really is like a pretty boy.
He's
Um
so pretty.
yeah.
That's like the first thing I thought. And then got to like hear him speak in an interview and was like, oh, and he's just a big little sweetie. Like
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
Cancer rising is definitely at the forefront.
Yeah,
Or like that
totally.
checks out to me a lot.
Totally, totally. Um, yeah, he has a very spread out chart. Um, and I guess that he got started. I didn't realize this, but he like okay, so I watched that show. Oh God, I don't recommend it, but that show on HBO that came out recently with The Weeknd, and it's like inspired
Oh,
by
and
Nexium,
Lily
the
Depp.
Idol. Yeah,
Yes.
Lily, and I guess she's good
Lily
friends with
Rose Depp.
Troy.
Yeah.
But she was really good in it actually. But yeah, Troye Sivan acted in it and I was like, oh, interesting. Troy is an actor. Like, is he going to be any good? And then I didn't realize in doing research today, he's been acting for like a long ass time. Like,
I didn't know that either.
he got a project when he was like really young. Yeah. So,
Oh.
but he, I guess, like, started out, which is so Gemini, honestly. Like, he got into music just from posting
Mm,
songs on YouTube that he would like make, which is, I think, very Gemini. This like need to just like communicate and just like,
mm-hmm.
fuck it, I'll put it online. Like, um, also, Troy's Gemini is extra strong because he has Mercury, Gemini's ruling planet, like right on the same, literally on the same degree as his Gemini sun in the 11th house, which is very about like the public and the
Mm.
community and what you're providing for the community. And Venus up there in the 10th too in Taurus, which hello beauty. Yes, of course he's beautiful and he also like I think just understands aesthetics and beauty and like uses that in his music videos and his whole persona as an artist. But
Ugh,
yeah, the Virgo moon thing, yeah, like I was saying before, I think there's like a very like sex forward or sex positive thing with Virgos, and I think
that's
Troy
right.
has always embraced that in sort of like a cheeky, you know, he is yeah, Andy Cohen constantly says like, "Thank God for you. If I had you as a kid, like I would feel so much better about being gay." Like,
Mm.
yeah, I know that
Well,
he's
and this
like,
is why too, like, not to make it all about this, but this is like why I don't think it's yeah, there is like a part of me that does I feel like so bad for the older again, just as we progress more, as more people have been allowed to share their sexuality without fear of not having a career. Now it's like, oh no, no, no. We would love to give the gays to quote what's her face, but like we would love to give the gays careers. There's so many gay people who like
mm-hmm,
exactly when you have a role model like that, when you feel seen, it's like it's yes, representation, of course, but also it's like especially in art, like especially
yeah,
in creative forces and music, especially like that's when maybe one of the art forms that really reaches and hits and it's like an immediate message, right? Um and I love like there's conversation around now, like, you know, when famous people are doing something really good or just something that makes you proud to root for them and be a fan of theirs. I love how people like will say like we made the right one famous, right? Because
mm,
there's almost like this world where it's like we make you famous. The people, the listeners, the consumers of the
mm-hmm,
art, of the entertainment are who made you famous. And I do feel like since he's entered the world of music and his career, Troy has been someone who is not going to not be his authentic self and not shy away
mm-hmm.
from talking about gay rights, being publicly like, yes, I'm a gay man in the music industry. And
Making a
yeah,
song
it makes
called Bloom and Rush that is so like Gemini, just like
uh fabulous. Yeah. Like
silly, but like, yeah, like a poppers brand being your like song. Like, I don't know, there's something so Gemini about that. Anyway.
I did not realize that. That's really
Yeah,
funny.
no, and Bloom is about like that part of your body, blue, like it's so like cheeky when you think about it. Like it's
Right.
so, but yeah,
It's
but
sexual, but it's like, but with cancer shell wrapped
right.
around it. Like the real ones will
The
know.
real
Yeah,
ones will
no,
get
like,
it. Yeah.
and like besides his sexuality, he's just an incredible. I think I just hiccuped right into the mic, but if it sounded like a burp, just know it was a hiccup. But like, yes, like despite his sexuality, his sexual preference, like, is just a good artist. But
hmm
yeah, there is some yeah, like that's huge that Andy Cohen gets to, you know, or that example really like hits home for me in a way that's like, oh, that's so special. Like, because
Yeah.
Andy Cohen didn't get him growing up, and now he gets to interview
Yeah.
um someone who's a role model for
Yeah.
little boys just like him. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful, like he gives off that essence, like Troy just does. And again, I'm not sure if it's his Gemini chameleonism that
Mm.
makes him so like you almost just again, I've never spoke to him in person. I've never actually met him, so everything with a grain of salt, but he does exude warmth. He really
Yeah.
exudes a lot of warmth to me. And someone that like isn't going to treat someone like he's a diva, someone
Yeah.
who could, but like that's not really the goal. Like
hmm
I the Cancer rising really stuck with me. I think that, or for Troy, like seeing that in his chart, I was just like, yeah, that really checks out. That just really, it exudes off of him, especially. But then
Yeah.
he's got that Gemini chameleon, so he can
Mm-hmm.
kind of work a room. Just
I know
based on, yeah,
Gemini's warm in its own way because it's very able to like break the ice or like
and
get
get
cozy
itself
with someone,
comfortable.
but in
Yeah.
a like more of an intellectual kind of like mischievous, playful way. But
Right.
like still, nonetheless, there's a warmth there. Um, yeah, apparently Andy Cohen told this story about how after he yeah, I think after they did Watch What Happens Live together, they ended up on like the same subway. And Troy said, Andy Cohen, like shouted it. And Andy was like, fuck you for like making it known. Like he was just trying to be like obscure, like not draw attention on the subway. And like that is such a, I was like,
A
oh my
little
God,
cheeky,
two
like,
Geminis. Yeah, like,
oh my God, that's literally something I would do. Is this where my mischievousness comes from, Heather? Is that my Gemini
yes.
moon? And I'm
Yes, I
like,
wish I had more Gemini. I love that energy.
I want to be a little troublemaker, kind of.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Um, no, yeah, he does. He just has this like little air about him, or what am I trying to say? Like an aura that is very
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm just a cheeky little sensitive. But yeah, that's what I mean. Like it doesn't seem like it's from a place of like inauthenticity or not
Yeah.
being true to like the artist and like his brand and message, and like feel like his Cancer and Virgo definitely still have quite a grip on the reins, right? You said
Yeah.
he's a Virgo moon.
Yeah.
We said,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And the Virgo moon too is someone who like it's so funny to hear again, the trajectory of like entered as a child or as an actor. I also did not know that, Heather, until you said that. The only thing I've seen him actually act in was the Thank You Next music video with Ariana Grande.
Oh, I don't even remember him being in that.
Yeah, they're like homies too. And well, they were at this time, and he's like featured in it. And like it says something like a little cheeky and like bitchy, but it's like,
Mm.
she's the one who made the video.
Right, right,
But
right.
then yeah, so that's interesting. It feels like that's very much a Gemini sun of like, I know I'm passionate about the arts, expressing myself, communicating and connecting with people on that sort of level. But then that feels very Virgo too, to just be in the industry, to stay in the industry, like to care about it enough to have the drive, the foundation, the lock in, right? But very Gemini in the way of like, but now I can explore different venues through that. Like I've arrived, I'm
Yeah.
secure in being here. Like the hard part of getting into the industry is done. Just
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it seems like music is for him. I'm glad he went that route. It just
Yeah.
very much feels a part of what he should be doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this chart and like the strong Gemini influence is like a community, like it has to communicate a message, that I think as an actor, you're sometimes the means to communicate someone else's message. Whereas
Mm,
in music, you kind of have more of the power to like be the one communicating something.
right.
And especially like with words, which is very Gemini. Um, yeah. And yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like this is a very kind of like lucky chart. Like, there's, I mean, it is like spread out, but the moon in Virgo in the second is conjunct Mars, which adds like extra like Aries power to it. In the second house of like financial security, and then that is trining the midheaven, which is the career point, and squaring that Venus Taurus in the 10th. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm sure that when Troy gets the ball rolling on something, it all just kind of flows pretty
Right.
effortlessly, which must be nice,
Yeah.
Jupiter in the fifth, the expansive lucky planet in the house of self-expression and creativity. And there's a lot that's like just natural. But also Uranus being like the planet of the unconventional and Aquarius is planet. And I've heard a lot of astrologers say it is like the planet of like queerness, not just in like um the sexuality terms, but like being off, like
Right.
being on the outskirts, being unconventional. That is opposing the Cancer rising and trining the Venus and Taurus. And so there's a strong emphasis
Mm,
of that too. And I think like yeah, him being an advocate and like a figure of like the future even and like what is yeah,
Honestly,
gay
and him being
rights.
so young, right? What year is he actually born?
He has
He's
Saturn in Pisces, so he must be like our age. Oh no, younger than us, right? With
I
Jupiter
want to
and
say he's younger, I thought.
he must be younger. He's
It
at the
just says
edge of Pluto and Scorpio.
1995. So he's not
Okay,
that much
not
younger,
much
yeah.
younger.
But like mid 1995 or like almost the middle of the calendar year, I guess it
Right,
would
right, right.
be. But no, yeah, I just again like I want to, not to compare and contrast, but like growing up for us, a huge like kind of mainstream pop sort of artist at the time who later came out as gay. Like the only thing I could think of is like Lance Bass
Oh yeah.
mainly. Um
Yeah.
is that from
Yeah.
American Idol, right? I'm really bringing up a lot of American Idol today. Or no, Lance Bass is from
Lance Bass is from NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. I always get them confused. Uh
Oh no, that's not what I mean. I mean
oh,
the Clay
oh,
Aiken. But Lance Bass is now out, correct?
yeah.
He is out. But
Yeah.
I want to say Clay Aiken also
Yeah. Clay Aiken,
maybe
I
not
think,
is
was one of
out.
the first people. And I remember also watching American Idol and Adam Lambert being on the
Adam
show and
Lambert. Am
everyone
I
being
mixing them
like,
all
oh,
up?
of course he's gay. But there was like a thing on American Idol where like, we can't like publicize that though. Like, it's like, that's not going to be part of like,
Right. Like, so when you think about that, we were born in 90 fucking 4 and Troy is born in 95 and has so much success at doing what he's doing too. That obviously didn't probably come with backlash. That obviously didn't come with a lot of like bullshit. Like, I think this is what people forget or like, not even forget. I think I forget it sometimes of like, that world seems so far away. And it's like, we're really still in it. There's a lot still to that's just really huge to me. That really speaks a lot to me. And like,
mm-hmm,
obviously, I know Troy is not the only out queer artist who like is obviously making a huge difference, but like again, in that Gemini way of not being afraid to talk about the shit that makes you authentic.
no,
Not just biting your tongue for the sake of that could make some people uncomfortable. Well, it's my fucking truth.
it takes
So
balls to make a song that's like low
yeah,
key about poppers and called Rush and a song called Bloom that's about like, yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it takes, yeah,
It's impressive. It's really impressive. And
yeah.
again, there's this idea I think in our society, tale as old as time, right? That pop music can't be deep, or that like if you enjoy pop mainstream music, you can't possibly understand depth. And I think there's something so fucking cheeky and Gemini about hiding maybe or like sort of disguising bigger themes, sexual themes and meanings and just like a light poppy song that like is
Mm-hmm,
just maybe catchy and gonna get into your head because
mm-hmm,
that's exactly who the audience needs to be most of the time. Are people who
mm-hmm.
aren't maybe wouldn't voluntarily listen to that if they really knew the messaging underneath or
Right,
really,
right.
like when it's disguised as like a fun pop song and people can
Mm-hmm.
dance to it, it's like they're naturally going to hear the message whether they like it or not. It's going to
Yeah.
be like encrypted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Yeah,
love that. Yeah. How
that's
fucking
really
Gemini is that? Yeah.
yeah, that's fun. That's
Yeah.
really fun. Um
He's a good
yeah.
one.
Yeah. He's just a fun little sweetie cutie baby
Mm-hmm.
pipe. Ooh, ooh. No, I love him. Troy, please come on the pod.
Oh my
Um,
God.
come and hang out with us. He just
Yeah.
seems like he'd be fun to hang out with.
Oh
Like
my
we
God.
just want to kick it.
Absolutely. I
Let's
mean,
kick it and kiki.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to be careful for those people who don't know me that well. But Miranda, did I tell you that I like my good friend Jake was scrolling through I showed him something on my Instagram and he was like kept scrolling on it on my feed and then was like, Heather, you are such a gay man that you're getting ads for PrEP. Like I get ads for HIV. So I was about to be like, I know Troy and I would be friends because like me and the gays.
That's so funny. Shouts out to Jake on that one. That's really funny. Um,
Such a gay man.
you are a gay man.
Well,
It's like the Cher quote of, "But mom, why would I need a rich man? I am a rich man." You're
yeah,
like,
no, but I
just
have the
kidding.
privilege of being a white girl. I want to, just say that, but I realize I'm privileged, but
But that is funny because that is your taste. That is authentic to you. And we're in the age, we're not in the age, we're in the age of Aquarius. We're in Gemini season. A lot of it, I think, is about connecting, yes, but for the sake right now, there's a lot of emphasis on authenticity, like
Yes.
connecting authentically,
Yes.
connecting on a deeper level, connecting for a bigger purpose and meaning in world. Like
I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
it just seems all much bigger right now. And as you mentioned, we've got the Pisces. Saturn is moving through Pisces. So again, that like when we talk about Saturn, you guys, Saturn as a planet. Let me see if I get this right, Heather. It's more of like the uh not the patriarchy, but like the father archetypes a little bit, like how we father ourselves when we're in that
Yes.
energy. When Saturn is sort of moving through us, it's very much so it's a loaded time right now of like, what are your next steps? I think there is almost a pressure of like, what are our next steps? What is the bigger life picture? What are the bigger life goals? What do we want at the end of this? And that's going to help our
Yeah.
decisions currently, right? Then also mixed in with we said the full moon, right, which is tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
tomorrow night.
technically the 23rd, I think, but like
Okay,
yeah, that
that's right.
means tomorrow night will start.
Energetically a little bit. And
Yeah,
that's in Sagittarius.
yeah, it's a fun one because it's a full moon in Sagittarius, which is already like much more of a lighter, abundant sign and energy. And then at the same time, Venus is going to be it moves right next to Jupiter, which is Sagittarius's ruling planet of abundance and luck and expansion. So there's a really like bright, warm, expansive quality to this full moon. It's not like other full moons that can be, I mean, I'm sure that it's going to be emotional regardless because a full moon day is always like big emotions, but it's like in this case it's a bit more like optimistic or like I don't know, I feel like it's a really good full moon for like tapping into big dreams or like you know it's the opposite of Saturn, Jupiter. It's like it's the biggest planet in the sky. It's in Sagittarius.
It's full
is
throttle.
like
It's like it's no limits. It's
yeah, it's
whatever
like
you
let me
could
dream
dare
the
to
biggest
possibly
dream.
dream.
Yeah, yeah,
Go
totally.
for it. Yeah. Where
Yeah.
Saturn's like, okay, let's be a little more conservative with it.
Restrictive.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I just love the imagery of like Saturn being the planet that has literally a ring around it. And I realize it's not the only planet that has a ring, but it's the one we associate with the ring of like constriction, and then Jupiter being the biggest planet in our solar system.
Oh my
Anyway,
God. You're so
right?
right. But also, is there not another planet in our solar system with rings?
There is. That's what I was saying. I think
Oh, Neptune.
yeah, I think it is
Neptune has
Neptune.
rings, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have to look that one up again. Maybe
It's either Uranus or Neptune.
one of them's got an
Uranus is
extra
built
ring.
on a funny tilt to Neptune. Do you ever watch Interplanet Janet?
No, but I will.
But yeah, no, but in that song, I grew up watching Schoolhouse Rock, and in that
there
song,
is just more than
there's
one planet with
also
rings.
there's so much symbolism to the way the planets are. Like Uranus is built, she says in that, or I think back then it was Uranus is built on a funny tilt, and like how Aquarius is the one that's like a little off kilter, and it's like, and it's a funny tilt, and yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, but yeah, I'm excited about this full moon. It's way more of an optimistic
It's loaded,
presence.
it's packed.
Yeah, and Venus conjunct Jupiter is like big love, big affection, big indulge yourself, big like pleasure, but in a big way. And then right after that, May 26th, which is what day of the week? That is Sunday. That's when Chani Nicholas was like, this marks the beginning of a new chapter. Not just her, but also so many astrologers are like, yeah, change is really in the air once Jupiter enters Gemini, because it's there for 2 years. You really feel it on a collective level. For the past 2 years, we've had Jupiter in Taurus, and finances have been a big topic. People reevaluating their jobs and what's fulfilling for them in a material way. And now we have Jupiter entering Gemini for the next 2 years. and we should feel a shift. It's a new chapter.
How are we gonna have fun with it? We've quit all of our
I know.
jobs.
Yeah,
We all know where our authenticities lie, where our dreams and our energy. So what are we gonna do about it? I kind of love that loaded upness.
make our own careers on TikTok and podcasts.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends.
Yes, please. And then Mercury meets up with Uranus on May 31st, which is also fun because Uranus is like shakeups and unpredictability and new insights, and it's very Aquarius. And then Mercury is, you know, Gemini's planet of how we communicate and use our brain. So there could be like new ideas, just fun communication day. I don't know, like talk to people in a more spontaneous, FaceTime your friend randomly or things like that.
Connect. Yeah, connect.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
So it's a fun month still. May's been a fun
we're still
one.
in the lighter parts of like
Especially
the movement.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although
Again, it
this
was like
Scorpio
wave
moon
after
right
wave.
now, yeah,
Oh, true.
it's a
The
little
wave, it might do a little shake up. We might feel a little gurgle, you know, here and there. But it's just, yeah, again, we had so much chaos, so much energy after energy, just like pop, 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 that it now is very like, that's why. And then, you know, because with the total solar eclipse for one thing during the month of April, then we followed up with this big new moon energy with Taurus, besides a bunch of other movements, of course. But now, like coming around to like the full moon, which feels like sort of like the next stop, the next real significant stop after we just had the new moon in Taurus, or the new moon in Taurus, correct? It's a new moon in Taurus.
Yes.
It wasn't just a new moon happening in the season of Taurus. Yeah,
No, because we'll have a new moon in Gemini next.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. That'll be our next new moon. Thank you,
Yeah.
Heather. Yeah, it's just been a very like that tune up, that pattern, those sort of order of events, really heavy and loaded. And it does feel like this is kind of our first like stopping point of like, now let's reflect. Let's see kind of what's gone on the past couple weeks, but then also from the total solar eclipse, from the moment we've entered Aries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's feel our abundance now.
Yes.
Now that we've been through the chaos, even if
we
it's
can make
like
room for more
abundance.
of it. Yeah. Let's shift some things, get those arms nice and wide. Let the universe deliver our presence as it should.
Yes.
We've earned it. We deserve it. I love that. I do. I just like we talked about how this time just feels like a big breath, and I feel like we're still in the breath, and I'm having a lot of like catch up to the breath. And this is a replenishing year, y'all. It's a replenishing year of abundance. Abundance is on the way. It is infinite.
It is. It is infinite. It's ours for the taking.
I love that, Heather. Was there anything else, Heather, before I tangent and get us distracted, that you wanted to add about the skies, the movements?
No, I think that's it.
We've covered it. Troye, come on the pod. Happy Gemini season to all. Infinite abundance, one in many.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm being fucking annoying, but I am just like, this is just such a vibe time. Like, socialize with the homies, get out there, do something a little bit outside of your comfort zone, tackle it like a Gemini would. They just act like they already know. They've got their thumb in every fucking pie.
Lead with curiosity,
but
what's going to stimulate. But
lead with curiosity, but contain your confidence. Yes, let that playfulness just like laugh a little bit. Laugh at yourself mainly. Oh my God. Gemini, I feel like, is very good about laughing at itself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you? It's hilarious.
Totally.
I love it. We love you, listeners.
Love you.
I love you, Heather.
Miranda.
Until next time, we'll see you right back here.
Bye.
Bye.